and we're here at the 103rd Farm Show, and I'm with Secretary Russell Redding.
It's always good to see you, Representative.
You too.
Thank you. Yeah.
Like, this is the 103rd, but I don't think anybody around here can say they've been to every farm show now, since we're that far in
Not quite,
advance.
right.
But tell me about some of the highlights of this year's farm show.
Well, I'll start with the theme. I mean, I always think it's cool to, the last couple of years we've had a theme that gives us a chance to sort of talk about agriculture, but also bring a lot of other people into the conversation. This year's theme is Inspiring Pennsylvania's Story. And that came about after thinking about the early years of our colony, the farmland, the forest lands, the timbers that were used to build the infrastructure and the natural resources to fuel the industrial revolution and feeding people. It just went on and on. We said we really ought to capture that because there's a great story in there about both the productivity and the perseverance of the farm community. We should celebrate that this week, which we do, but tell that story in a different way. That's one. I think the farm market that we're looking at, we've had these static displays in the past where you see the apples and you see the potatoes and so forth. We want to put all that together in a farm market where those who are coming through the farm show, they know to go to the grocery store or a farm market to find those kind of things. So let's try to put all that together. Anything on the culinary stage, there's a lot of good stuff back there this year that's new. We've added the craft beer industry, right? Yes. And some hard ciders.
To the hard cider, tell me about that, because I actually knew a family that lived in Pennsylvania. They moved to Canada and opened a hard cider plant or whatever up there, and they're doing very well. So
good.
I guess it's really taken over Pennsylvania also.
It's been a great, almost a transformation when you look at some of the traditional, particularly fruit growers, and those families that have added a hard cider to their line of products, right? They've done a great job, and the public's attracted to it. It's a nice tourism component. It's a nice way to add value and keep that income stream on the farm. So it's got a lot of potential as well.
And I have never tasted hard cider, but I believe you can taste it here at the farm show.
You can. It's just on this floor, about 200 feet, you'll find it.
I'll have to try that.
Yeah.
I know you were talking about the theme, and yesterday at the elected officials luncheon, you had some people talk about their stories with the farm show.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there listening to them and thinking, why do I like coming to the farm show so much? And I thought, when I was like 5 years old, my grandfather started bringing me here, and he rarely took us any place, my brother and I, by himself. It was usually with a grandmother and my mother, but he always brought us here by himself, and I thought back about that, how nice it was for him to bring me here. He sold Massey Harris farm equipment at the time.
Okay,
that's why he was here, so that's why
There's probably some pictures here somewhere of him in this complex. Yeah, there's a great history here. I think the really cool part of Farm Show is it is available to everybody, right? It doesn't matter your income level, it doesn't matter your ethnicity, it doesn't matter where you live in Pennsylvania or outside. You're welcome here. That's really cool.
It means something to everybody, that everybody in Pennsylvania can come here and have a good time.
Have a good time. Start the year out happy, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also, one morning this week, we had a breakfast for scholarship winners. So the Farm Show does have a foundation that gives scholarships. Mm-hmm. I would like the people listening to this to know about that, because there may be some kids out there that would like to earn those scholarships.
Yes.
I mean, this year it was $3,500 apiece. That was really, really good.
Right.
So how, if a student is listening to us, watching us, how can they start to get themselves ready to apply for this scholarship?
Yeah, so the Scholarship Foundation, which is, it comes out of the market sale. So the sale that occurs here on Tuesday of all of those livestock that make it through the judging process and are entered as a market animal. All of those kids who enter are eligible for one of the scholarships. Now, it doesn't have to be the year in which the animals are here. Just over your time as an FFA member or 4-H member. That's one of the qualifications. You have to be involved in the farm show. You've got to be involved in the market, one of the market animals. That's the goats, the sheep, and rabbits were added last year, the beef animals, and swine. And they've also included some of the dairy, even though it's not sold here on Tuesday. The kids who are in those programs felt like they, and the foundation wanted to make sure that they were eligible. So they are, there's a committee that reviews that, but any of those students who are headed to higher education, So it could be a community college, it could be a credential, it could be university are eligible for consideration.
And you mentioned FHA. Like, I think a lot of kids think they have to live on a farm to belong to an FHA, but they don't have to.
No, I think it's one of the great stories that, yeah, if you're enrolled in an agricultural science program, if you have an interest in the agricultural way of life and any of the many threads of agriculture, from conservation to equine to all farm employment, whatever it is, the FFA is a leadership development organization, first of all. It just happens to have its roots in American agriculture. So the FFA members got 153 chapters in Pennsylvania, about 12,000 FFA members, so it's very nice.
Well, now, we always talk about the weather when the farm show comes. This week the weather's been pretty good, but all through the year we had a lot of rain. Yeah. How did that affect our farmers? I know it did affect them, I think, not to their advantage this year.
No, it did, and as I have learned more, it had a 2018 impact. There is a residual into 2019 because some of these crops are still not harvested. A lot of them aren't sold because of either quality concerns and/or depressed prices that are occurring in the market. But on top of that, a lot of those fields that would have been, we're taking the soybeans off or the corn off, put a cover crop on or put the winter wheat in, that becomes 2019 crop. And a lot of those crops weren't off in time to allow the cover crop or the seeding. So there's going to be a residual impact in 2019.
Wow. And what else is happening in the ag business? I think that a lot of people, like young people, aren't going into it. Like, we're trying to get more young people to be interested in ag jobs.
Yeah, so there are kids interested. What is happening, though, is that the types of skills and competencies that the agribusiness community needs, particularly, that's the food processing, that's the equipment and service supply and marketing, all of those jobs, the types of skills also sound like a manufacturing job, right? And that the STEM fields, those qualities are transferable between sectors. So we've seen a growth in the number of ag jobs needed, and and a growth in the challenge of filling those jobs. So you've got to change the supply, and that's what we're trying to do, is to say we need more kids who have the right skills and competency to see agriculture and the food system as a place for meaningful employment. And that's part of a conversation. There's structural program changes to it, but our workforce development focus is one of the priorities in 2019 and beyond, to really look at the career pathways for these jobs. How do we get people interested in it, younger and younger, age school kids interested, to get to that point of having the industry have a supply of needed labor.
Well, we hope they do. I always think it's a lot of fun. I've always enjoyed being on a farm.
Yeah.
Now, what about the dairy industry? I know I also represent, mostly Dauphin County, but I have some in Lebanon County.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of my dairy farmers have been struggling right now. So, because people don't drink milk, and they drink coconut milk, which really isn't milk. What can we do to help the dairy farmers?
It's the most challenging question, right? And you see it and hear it, and we've been on the same ends of the concern being expressed by the dairy farm families, to say, listen, I don't know, I've done this for 2 years, I don't know how long can I hang on, right? They keep making sacrifices, and I would say that there's a little bit of uptick in prices here as we enter 2019, but the key to it, and you touched on it, it is about consumption. And everybody here, just trying to make them aware that we'll work these channels of more processing and research and development, but at the end of the day, it's about what you and I drink, what we consume. Now, total dairy, we're eating a lot of dairy products, but we're drinking less and less fluid milk. And for Pennsylvania, that's been our anchor, and it's been very predictable. And we've entered this period now where folks are looking at alternatives. They're drinking less fluid milk. Every time they do that, it's less money for Pennsylvania's dairy farmers. Every time they do it. So if they want to go to the alternatives, if they stop drinking milk, there's a loss to Pennsylvania dairy farm families. I would say that it's also a dairy industry issue, is how we present that. I don't know what your morning's like, but I can tell you the number of mornings I have a bowl of cereal are few. I have a bar of cereal that I put in my shirt pocket, but I don't take the milk with me, right?
Because you're always in a hurry, like everybody, all of us are in a hurry.
In a hurry, right? So that milk doesn't go with me. So even if I have the cereal, we need to figure out the convenience of that milk and being able to buy in different units and sizes to say, no, I'm going to take the milk with me when I take my cereal. That's one thing. But the key is just consumption of good, nutritious dairy products.
Drink milk is good for you.
It's very good for you, yeah.
And we have one other problem in Pennsylvania that's challenging some of the farmers, and that's the spotted lanternfly.
Yeah.
And I believe we're putting money into it. We're trying to not have that become a big problem in Pennsylvania, but I think that lanternfly has appeared somewhere in Pennsylvania.
Oh, it's here. So it appeared in Pennsylvania 2014 in Berks County. And it went from one municipality to a county to 3 to 9 to 13 counties. So we now are quarantined 13 counties and primarily southeast Pennsylvania. You know, and it's a pest that first time in North America that it's here. So there's not a lot of good science. There's no sort of broad-based control of the spotted lanternfly. We've got 25 research projects underway from Penn State to Temple to West Virginia to Canada, trying to deal with this issue of the spotted lanternfly. So educate, right, awareness, control, and you know, keep trying to suppress it.
And know what it looks like. If anybody spots it, report it to the Department of Ag, correct?
Yes, please, yes.
Well, thank you for being our wonderful Secretary of Ag. We appreciate everything you do for us.
You're very kind. Thank you. Thanks for being here. Happy New Year to you.
Thank you, too.
Thank you.